Welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper, and first thing I want you to do is notice the environment I'm in, okay? Notice the environment that I'm in. Now, we rent this property from the government, meaning we pay property tax, but we bought it, so as much as you really can own something, we own it. And because we own it, there's a certain level of interaction that we have with this property that I find to be beneficial, okay? So think about the environment I'm in first of all. Second of all, know that there is always going to be something that they use, okay? The governments, the elite, the powers that be, the spokespersons on the talking head television, scare tactic news networks, who are the other people? Oh, all the little pop stars, all the little actors and actresses, the little puppets, those who make their living being professional make-believers. They are also going to be the talking pieces, and there's always going to be something. Some decades it's going to be things like nuclear war. Other decades it's going to be the ozone layer. Then it's going to be the ice age. Then it's going to be climate change. But it's always going to be something, and because of these global catastrophes that are just always right on the horizon, I'm pretty sure by a couple people's calculators, we should have all been dead by now because we didn't get with their programs, and the time limits that they set have already passed. So the world may have already ended. But there's always going to be these things that just threaten the entire world's civilization. And because of that, there's a lot of your personal freedoms that you're going to have to give up. Please don't fall for it, okay? These messages are brought to you by the same people who came up with duck and cover. Duck and cover. Looks like a nuclear bomb is going to go off. Why don't you crawl under your desk? Why don't you go against that wall over there and curl up in the fetal position? And that way, after the bomb blast comes off, any survivors can walk by and be like, oh, look at that. There's like a little burnt silhouette of a person crouching down next to that wall over there. I'm glad they were safe. We've got some pretty good wind going on here now. It's been going on for 3 or 4 days, so hopefully it's not messing with the audio too much. But I want to remind you of these things. The same people who time and time again, right, the scientists who are working for the government, who are pushing these agendas, who aren't even like pro-environment, a lot of it's just anti-people. A lot of it's not trying to find a way to support the world's population in a way that works good. It's how do we reduce the world's population? And personally, I just like throwing out the reminders, okay? These are the guys who brought you duck and cover. These are the guys who brought up that, you know, you better be 1 more foot than 5 feet away from somebody else or the world could end. I used to sit there in the stores and look at the X's on the floor and go, oh no. And they'd go, what? Is our X's wearing off? And I'd say, no, I was just thinking if something mutated, that it was able to travel 6.5 feet, would probably all be dead by now. And then, you know, remember, asymptomatic for weeks, right? You can be asymptomatic for like 2 weeks. So sometimes people would ask me, especially at the onset of things, how are you doing? And I'd go, oh, I have no idea. And that's not the answer they're expecting at the checkout. How's it going today? I have no idea. And they'll go, what do you mean you have no idea? I'm like, well, I heard on the news I could be doing terrible for weeks and never even know. So how would I have an idea how I'm doing? In that same line, people would ask, oh, have you been in contact with anyone who is feeling ill? And I'd say, well, I've been in contact with healthy people and, you know, they could be asymptomatic. So let's stick to the narrative here, right? Why do I bring this up? I bring this up because, well, for one, I've got a smokehouse. I actually showed off some smokehouse burgers I cooked and shared a post online, and somebody from somewhere goes, boy, that's a lot of CO2 emissions for those burgers, because, you know, carbon. I thought, wow. Personally, I'll let you know a little secret. I had never thought of that. Just didn't think of it. And we started heating with the wood stove again for this year. So when I think about wood, here's actually some of the ones I use in my smokehouse. Let's see, here's one. Boom. If you notice the environment that I was in, It's woods. Boy, this wind is something else right now. But the environment is woods. Woods is where we get wood from, okay? A forest is made of trees. Trees are made of wood. Here I've manicured it rather well, so you can see there's a bunch of spaced out trees through there. But if I was to like not have my sheep mow my lawn, everything behind me, over there by my vehicles and my house, would turn back to woods. If you live in a city, in an apartment building, and you just look out your window and try to tell everyone else how to live their life, you might not understand this. But for those of us who live in the real world, out here in the natural environment we were created to live in, if you don't tame it, it'll overtake everything. That's how the woods work in areas that they can be. You know, not talking about desert, not talking about the middle of a lake, but in an environment like this, yeah, eventually trees would be growing up in the middle of all the streets around here. It's what happens. So, if you notice the environment that I showed you that I was in, I don't have any coal really available to me, natural gas, propane. I haven't been able to detect much electricity just growing around in my woods, okay? At the moment, that's where I'm at. But what I do have is woods. So I can take this and I can heat my house. I can. I've done it before. I will do it again. I can also take this and cook my food. That's the whole purpose of the smokehouse, which is absolutely awesome. And then there are those, even people who will like fly across the city they live in, fly from one side to the other, and they're gonna talk to me about my carbon footprint, about my CO2 emissions. Y'all, we do have two vehicles, but they almost never leave at the same time. In fact, based on the grand scheme of things, our vehicles almost never leave home. A lot of our food comes from right here. We can walk to the garden and get a lot of our food. We're not trying to be green. That's not my motivation, like, oh, unless me and my family walk barefoot up to the garden each morning to harvest our vegetables and then stop by the chicken coop and get the eggs. Like, unless we do that, everyone's gonna die and there won't be a world left in the future for my children. Tell you what, I have some inside information. I'll put it up right here. Inside information. That does wonders to understand this, okay? That's the reality of the situation. Simply put, we couldn't end this world if we wanted to. We couldn't end this world if we wanted to. So if we don't want to, and we're being somewhat aware of our surroundings, not just being complete jerks on the planet, things should be okay. I just have a problem with politicians who make rules that don't apply to them. Politicians who get a certain wage that somehow they earn an astronomical amount more than. Politicians who don't, hey, it's a chicken, right? Check out, I got a good video of the political chicken. If you want to understand a little more, check out the political chicken. It's one of the reasons that certain places, I'm a guest in somebody else's house, even running this channel here on this platform. Videos like that are one of the ones that, you know, it's why I'm not well liked by certain, that vice president, what was he? Al Gore. And I hear he plays the drums. There's an Al Gore rhythm. And, yeah. Anyway. They sit there and, you know, these elite puppets with other people's interests in mind. These people who really, the land of make-believe fantasy actors and actresses, and then you get your pop stars and just goofy stuff. And they're gonna dictate how we should live when they've got 2 or 3 houses and they're constantly traveling by their own private jets, and you know what I mean? Like, they're gonna act like they rule the world, and then they're going to take it even further by telling us what we can and can't do. As long as I'm able to, I don't mind living in an environment like this. There's dead trees here that will keep my family warm. And if they have to, keep my family fed. If I want cooked food, you don't have to cook a lot of food to eat it, but if we want warm food, keep my family fed for years and years and years before I really even have to touch the living stuff. I know, I've done some calculations. I've got a woodshed. I know about how much it takes to heat my family on a yearly basis. I know a pretty good evaluation of what even is here on our property. So don't fall for the traps. There's always going to be some Chicken Little, the sky is falling, unless you stop, taking things in your own hand, unless you stop cutting down trees or picking up dead trees off the ground to heat your house. Unless you do that, we're all going to die. And therefore, you're the evil guy. Often, guys, whoever they're telling you to hate, whoever they're telling you is the evil guy, usually is not, unless they've got a confession to make. And they're going to get a little personal and be like, you know what, all those things we said on the news, we lied to you. You know, all those secret bills we passed, all those things we made into law that didn't have your best interest in mind, we lied to you. You know, all those things we had that we called like, an Inflation Reduction Act that has nothing to do with, reducing inflation, we lied to you. Unless they've got a more close to home confession, don't believe the puppets of who the good guys and bad guys are. Okay? I would not recommend that. Why? Because I've heard what they say. I've seen that they are not credible witnesses. If you want to be a person of integrity, quit lying. If you want people to believe you, tell the truth. If you want to have a trustworthy relationship with others, be a credible witness. Otherwise, we'd be fools to believe you. So, just remember, if you don't have a wood stove yet, I would highly recommend one. It'll probably, especially this year, drastically reduce your heating cost. Because if you've got to buy your propane or your natural gas or your electricity to heat your house, it's probably going to cost you a lot more this year. And who knows? Maybe there's not going to be a supply. Maybe you're not going to be able to stay warm. Maybe you're not going to be able to stay in your house. Maybe if you want to be warm, you're going to have to leave your house. You don't think they'll pull that one of these winters and have these emergency setups where everyone can come and stay warm while they leave their houses empty while they do everything else? I wouldn't put it as being beyond them, because I've seen the way that they behave. For me, part of the reason we moved down here was I realized in central Wisconsin, in the house that we had, the way that we were living, if the power was out for 2 weeks in the middle of winter, it was checkmate, endgame, we lose. That's how it was. Because I wouldn't be able to really even have food or water that was clean. I wouldn't be able to heat my house. And it'd be checkmate, endgame. We'd be cold and starving and freezing. Essentially, that's what would have happened. I realized if I moved somewhere else where I could kill a sheep, throw a log on the fire, and light a candle, that would be better, because then life goes on. See the storm coming, prepare yourself ahead of time, and don't go on to destruction. Don't believe the liars. Know that they're always going to try to scare you into compliance with whatever dumb idea they think of next. And don't play that game. If you want to take my advice. Anyway, I got to check the weather, see if I need to start a fire tonight. And I think I might take out one of my sheep. Kill a ram so I can cook them in here. And if it wasn't as windy, I could probably go shoot a deer. You know, one of those nice little helpless little, but I mean like a real deer, not the deer with human emotions that run around talking to one another in the forest till the big evil hunter comes along. No, I mean the ones that are here everywhere. And if we're not careful, they smash into their cars, even with as many as we eliminate every year. If this wind dies down, I might try to kill one of those too. And then cook it over some wood. Free to do so. Not everyone's going to like that, but they do a whole bunch of things that I don't like. So I guess I'll just do unto others. I'll do the things they don't like while they do the things I don't like. I'll see you next time. Papa out. The cow head is good? Yeah. That's because you know.